Hi there, and welcome to the Neck Pour. My name's Lewis, and welcome to the Whisky Review channel, where I give you my opinions on a particular bottle of whisky from the neck pour all the way down to the dregs. And we're here today with a bottle of £17 single malt whisky. Do not readjust your sets. That is correct, £17 single malt whisky. This is the Bankhall British Single Malt. Interestingly, it's called a British single malt because it was distilled in Wales and then bottled in England. So they can neither call it Welsh nor English, but in fact, a British single malt. And if you wanted to go even cheaper, you can actually get their blended whiskey for £16, which is just a ridiculously good value bottle, if it's any good, you know. This is Bankhall, which is owned by Halewood Artisanal Spirits. They also own Aber Falls Whisky, which is where this was distilled, and Bonington, the distillery in Edinburgh, in Leith, along with Bankhall, which is in Blackpool, I believe. They also own Whitley's Gin, Pogue's Irish Whisky, and Dead Man's Fingers Rum. So they've got a pretty broad range of kind of supermarket consumer level products, going to maybe slightly better. I personally think the Dead Man's Fingers stuff is kind of okay for super generic supermarket spirit. But yeah, for £17, when I saw that there was an actual true single malt available, I couldn't say no to it at that price. And part of it, I want to see what it's like. I'm going into this with realistic expectations. I don't think this is going to blow my socks off. I think it's, it's 40%, it's chill filtered, it's coloured, it's all the things that I rail against in order whiskey. But I have also been thinking about making a bit of a sort of winter spice Christmassy liqueur that I want to get put down infusing. And I thought it'd be interesting to see whether I could take something that's at such a cheap price point and maybe make it into something quite delicious. Or it might just be delicious on its own. Who knows? But yeah, let's get into it, see what we think. This is actually corked, which I'm surprised about. I thought it might have been a screw cap under there. And yeah, it's odd to see a single malt whiskey at this price as opposed to a blended whiskey or a grain whiskey, It's just that purely buying the malt is pretty expensive and then aging it. This is, of course, non-age stated and is probably very young, gives virtually no information, didn't come in a tin or anything, just this bottle. I do quite like the kind of medicine bottle style bottle. I think it's quite cool. And it just says this is sourced from the Aber Falls distillery. Yeah, let's have a listen to the cork. Oh, brilliant sounding cork. And yeah, let's pour ourselves a little drop and see what we think. Again, quite a wide necked bottle, so it pours pretty fast. But I don't think this is necessarily going to be one to savour at all. It says it's finished in bourbon barrels, so I'm not sure what it's been aged in, but it says it's finished in bourbon barrels. So yeah, let's give it a smell and a taste, because I don't think too long in the air is going to really affect this. It smells young. A little bit nail polish remover, a little bit acetone. But there is a little hint of kind of spices, a little hint of citrus, a little hint of oak there. It's not particularly offensive, but there's not a massive amount going on. Yeah, let's give it a taste. That's surprisingly pretty pleasant on the palate. It's quite kind of raisiny, sultanery. which is quite a traditional kind of sherry Oloroso PX kind of flavour. And I wouldn't have thought at this price they just wouldn't be able to afford fantastic casks for this to be in. But I wonder though, being a British single malt whiskey, if this has been adulterated somehow with something, because I wouldn't have thought there is a kind of geographical reference like there is for Scotch whiskey, like there is for English whiskey, like there is for Welsh whiskey. So perhaps it's a bit of a fluke of the law that by calling yourself British whiskey, you can add things, because it's super sweet. And tastes super sherried and actually pretty pleasant, you know. I mean, let's have another little look at the thing. No, there's nothing particularly stated on the bottle about anything. Just that it's part of their brand and from Aber Falls. They give some tasting notes on there, which aren't too far wrong, to be honest. I am getting dried fruits, vanilla, toffee, and cream. You know, that's actually a pretty spot on palate descriptor on there. Obviously, being 40% and so heavily filtered, super short in the mouth, not super satisfying, but it was only 17 quid. That's not to say that you should buy this. However, at the kind of sub £20 mark anyway, or sub maybe £22 mark, that's a pretty good offering. I'm pleasantly surprised by this. I wouldn't necessarily buy it again, but for something like what I intend to do with it, trying to make a bit of a liqueur, an infusion, whatever you want to call it, I think it's a perfect thing to do, because you're not gonna miss it. Whereas something that you've paid £30 for, like kind of £22.50 to £30, where you're starting to get proper good whiskies, you might feel, I don't want to pour 500ml of that into something that may or may not actually turn out any good. You know, because I might absolutely ruin this. I've no idea. I've never done an infusion before. But for this kind of price, I feel I can play around with it and I can see what happens. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, given how manufactured this whiskey is before going into here, with the additional processes of the chill filtration, the colouring, the watering right down to 40%, I don't think this is going to change as I drink through it. But I will, when I've reached the end of the bottle, come back and film the dregs. And I'll put some other videos out of what I've done with it. Perhaps a video showing the process of me making it and tasting it a couple of times along the way, and then a video of me tasting the sort of finished product against a sample of what the original product was and seeing if I have genuinely improved it. But yeah, it's interesting to see you can pick something up quite this cheap. However, I'm not sure, as a whiskey enthusiast, this is the direction we should be going in, to be quite honest. I think we can, for just that bit extra, go into that £25 category, you can start getting things that are quality whiskies made and presented slightly better than this. And for me personally, I would rather buy less bottles of better whiskey than more bottles of something like this, or, you know, your famous grouses, your White and Mackays, all of those kind of things. But that's not to say that this isn't perfectly drinkable whiskey. So it's an interesting one, and one I'll kind of probably think about a little bit more as I continue to drink it. And yeah, I'll be back with my thoughts and opinions on where this is going as we finish the bottle off, what I've done with the rest of the bottle, and my overall opinions when it's all said and done. I would like to ask that if you've enjoyed the content, please drop me a like down below. Please leave a comment if you've got any thoughts on this particular bottle of whiskey, anything else within their kind of group of whiskies, or just anything in general you'd like to see me review. Please do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be posted when I next upload. Other than that, I'd love for you to join me again for another episode of the Neck Pour, the Dregs, or just my general musings on whiskey. And until the next time, I'd like to say thank you, cheers, Salancha, and I'll see you around.